Welcome back to the RUCHED YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to make this beautiful skirt that we see here. It has a ruch effect that you can either loosen to have a free skirt, and you can also tighten it up just like this to have an elegant skirt just like we have here. It has a slit in front. The slit can be as high as you want, and it's a very comfortable skirt. You can see it is really comfortable to wear, and it's very stylish. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this skirt, you need your waist measurement. My waist is 33, including zipper allowance, and then you need the length, total length you want for your skirt. The total length I want the skirt to be is 30 inches. Okay, so for me, I don't want any side seam, so the only seam I'm going to be having is going to be at the back where we're going to pass our zipper. Okay, so we are working with a half circle skirt. You can also make it a full circle if that is what you want. If you want it to be really full, but half circle is fine. So this is a full circle, so now we're just going to be working with half of it. So to get the radius to cut out your flare for a half circle, so to get the radius, what we'll simply do is divide this 33 inches by 3.142. This is a constant. I have a detailed tutorial on how to get this, so you can just check it out, but it's a constant. So whatever you're working with, whatever your waist is, just divided by 3.142. For me, I have 10.5 inches, and that is going to be the radius of my flare. Okay, 10.5 inches. And then for the length, I have 30 inches. I'm going to be fixing a band to it. Okay, so the band can be 1.5 to 2 inches. So if I'm fixing a 1.5 inches band to this, I'm just going to deduct that 1.5 from the total 30 inches that I have. If you deduct 1.5 from this, we'll have about 28.5, and then I'm going to add 1 inch for hemming and for joining the band to this, so I'll be left with 29.5. So to fold my fabric, I'll simply add this 29.5 to 10.5. okay, and that will give me 40 inches. So that is the total fabric that I need to fold. So now for a half circle flare, to fold your fabric, I'm going to assume this is my fabric. Okay, so what you want to do, remember we need a total of 40 inches. That's our length plus the length plus the seam plus the radius. That's 40 inches. So what you want to do is to just take your fabric like this, and then you measure the 40 inches. Remember, this paper will not be up to 40 inches, so I'll just assume this is 40 inches. Once you have 40 inches, you just fold your fabric into two on that 40 inches in such a way that you have 40 inches here and 40 inches there. So that's the total of 80 inches. Okay, so after folding your fabric into two like this, the next thing you want to do is to take this fold point. Okay, this fold point here, you are going to take it to this side to form like a triangle. Okay, like this. So now when you are folding it, you are not going to fold this completely. Remember, there is a zipper that is still going to come here. Okay, so because of that zipper, you are going to leave your zipper allowance of 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So when you are folding your fabric, you can add like 1 or 2 inches to the 40 inches so that you have enough allowance. Don't fold exactly 40 inches. You can add 41 inches so that by the time you fold it, it's going to be a total of 82 inches thereabout. So now you can see how I folded this. I fold my fabric into two first, then after folding into two, on this fold point here, remember this is the open point, this is the fold point. So this fold point, you just fold like this, and then you leave your zipper allowance. Don't fold up to the end. You leave 1 inch for your zipper allowance, and this is how you are going to fold this. So this is the back. I'm marking my zipper allowance here. So after doing that, what you just need to do is to mark your radius. So the radius is from this point. Now you're going to mark the 10.5 inches. Okay, so I'll just leave this. It's really big, and my table is small, so that's why I'm working with this paper. So I'm assuming this to be my 10.5 inches, and then I'm going to mark it. So after marking your 10.5 inches, the next thing is to mark your total length. Remember, we are coming up by 1.5 for the allowance, and then the total length is 30 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. That's going to be 31 inches. So from here now, you start marking your 31 inches, okay, from your radius. Or you can just add everything together to make your the 40 inches, and then you just mark all around like this. Whichever one you want to work with is fine. So now you are going to mark it and connect. Okay, so this is your front, this first two that is closed, and this last two here is your back. The next thing is to cut this out. Okay, so it's cut out now. You can simply notch this part to know that this is your center front area, and this is what the full skirt is going to look like. You can see this crease line here are our side. You can see that the side is cut together now. We are not going to have any side seam, and this open part here is going to be your center back where your zipper goes, and this is the center front. Okay, so now we are not going to do anything to the back. It's just the zipper. The main thing we want to do is going to be on the center front. So you can see I have folded it. So this, now I have folded it in such a way that I have my center front here. You just fold into two in such a way that you have your center front here and your center back here. Okay, so this is my center front and here is my center back. So now we are going to be working on the center front. Let me just show us our fabric now. Okay, so this is our fabric. You can see I have cut it out. This is the radius, and then for the radius, the skirt is this long because it's going to be a high waist skirt. I'm pairing this with a crop top. I'm making the crop top that you see on the thumbnail together with it. So that is why the length of the skirt is that long, because I'm going to be placing it. It's not going to be on my regular waistline. It's going to be a high waist skirt. So the length that I use for my radius is 10.5. I hope you can see that. I'm not sure this chalk is so visible. The fabric is, it has many colors. So this is the length of my flare, the radius of my flare 10.5. This is my zipper allowance. You can see that my front was not folded up to this point. And then for the full length of the skirt, if you subtract to 1.5 inches, you can see I have 13 inches, which is my actual length here, and then I have the 1 inch allowance. Okay, I have the 1 inch allowance, which makes it 31 inches. So that's what we have for our actual skirt as well. So now I'll just go ahead and cut out my front, my radius, and then I'm going to notch my center front on this part, and then I'm going to notch on the hem as well, so that I can open it out easily and I'll be able to recognize where my center front is, which is the same thing I did on the paper. So I'm removing the pins that I used to hold it now, and what I'm going to do is to simply fold in such a way that I have my center front. So you can see my notch. So this is my center front here, just like we did for the paper. So now we'll continue. So now we have the center front. The next thing you need is your dart line. So to get your dart line, you need your bust span measurement, your nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 4. So remember, that's where we normally place our dart on our skirt. So from your center front here, you just mark your 4 inches. So because this is a miniature, I'll just leave it at 2 inches. Okay, you mark it on both sides of your center front. One side is going to carry the slit and the other side is going to carry the ruch effect that we see. Okay, that's why you need it to be on both sides. So I have my dart line here. So the next thing now is to try to get a straight line from your radius, from your waistline all the way to the hem. Because it's a flare, you can obviously see now that it is not straight. It's supposed to be like this, but because it's a flare, you can see that it is slanted. So you try to get your straight line from, you just place your ruler. Okay, you cannot use the same measurement that you used here, because you can see that this part is slanted, so it's not going to be straight. So you just place your ruler now to try to mirror a straight line. You can get like a straight line here and then match it with your waistline so that it can give you something straight. So once you get there, you just mark it straight like this, and then you do the same thing for the other side as well. You try to get your straight line, or once you have something there, you can just mark the points where you got the straight line on that side, and then you make another straight line here. So now you can open it out. So these are our dart lines. So you decide the part that is going to carry your slit, and then you decide the part that is going to be for the ruch. So for me, I want the slit to be on my left side, so this is my left side, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark my slit opening. So from your waistline, you determine how open you want your slit to be. So you deduct 1.5 inches for your band, and then you determine how long you want how open you want your leg to be, basically. So we are back to our fabric now, so that we can use real measurements. Okay, so this is my center front. This from here to here is 4 inches, which is my bust span measurement, and then I just measure this straight, just like I said. Another thing you can just do on the hem, because the hem is wider, you can just double what you're measuring on the upper part. Remember, I measured 4 inches here, so here you can just measure 8 inches, and then you connect it so that you can just get your straight line, or you just do it like I explained. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark where my slit is going to be. And like I said, the slit is going to be on the left side, and this is going to be my left side. Okay, that's where I want my slit to be. This is the wrong side of my fabric. So from here now, I'm going to mark around 15 to 16 inches for my slit. That's from the upper part. You need to mark that on your body to be sure of exactly where you want your slit to start. So for me, I want it to be around 16 inches, which is here. Remember, if I had a band to this, it will still come down more. So this is fine. It will give me like around, I will sew this by 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to add my band, so I will be left with around 17 to 18 inches, which is fine. If you want it to come up more, if you want to expose more, you can make it so, or we can just leave it at 15 inches, which is here. So this is for the slit, and this is for the ruch. For the ruch as well, I'm working with whatever it is that I'm working with here. So I worked with 15 inches here. Here again, I'm going to work with 15 inches. I want the slit and the ruch to be on the same length. I hope my camera is capturing it. Okay, so now it's going to be here. So now I'll just push it so that I can create the slit on the hem. Remember, the slit is coming from the hem. So like I said, depending on how open you are willing for your slit to be, on the hem here where we have our center line here, you can just, if you want it to be like 2 inches wide on the slit area, so you just mark 1 inch on both sides, and then you have your slit opened by 2 inches. Remember, you are still going to hem it, so you just consider that hemming as well. If you hem by 1/2 inch, it means you are opening by around 3 inches. If you want it more, you can open more, so it's totally up to you. So here, if I mark 1 inch on both sides here, I'm just going to connect it to these points, or you can just put it on fold so that you have something uniform. So now you put it on fold by that center line that you have there, and then once you put it on fold like this, you mark whatever opening that you're willing to work with. If it's 1 inch, if it's 1/2 inch, if it's 2 inches, you mark it, and then you connect it to this 15 inches line that we have here. So I'm just using my free hand. You can also use a curve or a straight ruler. So after marking, connecting like that, I'm going to pick my scissors and then cut out what I have. So I'm just trying to make sure that the lines are accurate before I cut. Okay, you want to get that center line very well so that you have the same thing on both sides. So once you have it, I'm going to bring my scissors now and then cut this out. So now, if you can turn this with your facing or your bias, but I advise you use the facing because of the V shape. Bias may not get it well for you. So now, if you're going to be turning this with your facing, you can just fold your facing underneath it now and then cut it out so that it will be easy for you. So to cut the facing, I just place under fabric on fold, and then I place this on it. So you make sure on this upper part, these fold points of your actual skirt matches to the fold points of your facing. And after doing that, I pinned it, and then I'm going to cut out exactly what I have here. So this is going to serve as the facing for the skirt. So on the hem, I'll cut exactly what I have on my hem as well. So now I remove my pin and then reshape the facing depending on the allowance that you're willing to. So for me, around 2 inches all around is okay. So you can just mark it, but I'm going to eyeball it and then cut around the line that I have, so I can still reduce it by the time I'm joining this. So this is what I have tentatively for my facing. Okay, you can see. So this is what I'm going to use to turn this slit that I have here. So you just need to open up your slit like this, and then you place the facing. You place the facing on it, right side facing right side, like this, and then you pin and sew all around so that you can use it to flip it inwards. And then you can either sew it, and if you don't want to see a seam line, you use your hemming gum to glue them together. So that is it for the slit area. So for the other side, which is my ruch area, so what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and cut a fabric that I'm going to use as casing for the ruch effect. Okay, depending on how wide your rope is going to be, that's how wide the fabric you're going to cut is going to be. The length of this fabric is going to be around 15 inches, but I'm going to add 1 inch to turn it on this lower part. So I'll cut out a fabric of 16 inches long, and then the width is going to be around 2 inches thereabout, so that I can fold it in and still have my center line. So for the ruch part, I have gone ahead to mark this line, this 15 inches line, on the right side. Remember, it was on the wrong side, and this ruch is going to be on the right side. So I have cut this fabric. Okay, the fabric is 16 inches in length. So what I'm going to do on the hem, you first hem it like this. You hem it neatly, you sew it in and hem it. After sewing it, the center of this fabric, okay, I have ironed it so I can see the crease line easily. So the center of this fabric is what you're going to match to the line that you have here. So what we are doing is just creating casing for our rope. So you can see I am placing it, and then I'm going to sew the center line first. So after sewing the center line on this side, you're just going to fold it in and hem it by 1/4 of an inch like this, and then you sew. You do the same thing for the other side. I've ironed mine, so it makes it easy for me to fold. So you are going to have 3 seams, one at the center line, one at the hem here on this side, and one at the hem on this side. You need to hem this line, this rope that you have first, okay, this casing that you have first, because you need it to be open so that your rope can come out straight. So you cannot hem after you have sewn it, just hem it before like this, and then by the time you sew the center and sew the side, this part is still going to be opened for you to pass your rope. So I'll go and do this, and also on the slashed part, that's where we have our slit, I'm going to place my facing and also sew the facing and turn. So I will do this and bring it back to show us what we have. So I have gone ahead to hem the slit. You can see how neat the slit is looking now, and then I placed my hemming gum underneath it. So I'll just weave the rough edges of the facing, and this is what it looks like. You can see how neat it is looking. And then this is where I placed my casing. So you can see my casing here, it is opened on this part. You first sew it at the center point, and then you sew it on the 2 sides so that you can create channels for your rope. So I've created the rope that I am using. These are my 2 ropes. So the next thing now is just to pass it through the casing that we have here. So I just placed I'm using my safety pin to pass it, and then I'm going to pass it from the lower part to this upper part. So I've inserted the rope. As you can see, it's just going to be dangling on this part, and then this waistline area, I'm going to hold it with my stitch and then cover everything up with my band. So please note that the slit is going to be from the hem upwards like this, while the casing is going to be from your waist to the 15 inches that we want. Please don't get confused. So now that we have this, I'll go ahead and hold this down with my stitch, and then I'll measure around my waistline to cut my band. So I have already cut my band, and then I've ironed it inwards like this, you can see. So now what I'm going to do now is just to take this to the sewing machine and tuck my waistline in between the bands like this, and then I'm going to sew it all round. Okay, so I have fixed my band, as you can see, and it is neat both in and out now. and this my ruch now is held together with my skirt with my band, so you can drag it as much as you want. Now this is what it looks like. So now the last thing to do is to match the center back. Remember, our seam is just at the center back. We're going to match the center back together and then sew from your zipper. You can measure like 7 inches for your zipper, and then you sew the rest close. You fix your zipper and hem the lower part of the skirt. So I'll do this now and take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So this is what our skirt looks like on the mannequin. You can see the ruch effect that we created. It just makes this skirt really elegant. And this is our slit. The slit can be as high as you want. I don't want mine too high, that's why I left it at 16 inches. And then the ruch as well, you can either loosen it out to have something like a normal flare skirt, and you can also increase it. So the more you apply the ruch, the more opened your slit is going to be. You can see that I'm dragging it up, it's opening up the slit more for me. So it's totally up to you and what you want. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me.